Good afternoon, or good evening, depending on where you're hearing my voice from. Uh, this is the Biafra Golden Child, and of course, I'm feverish, always very concerned, very vociferous concerning matters of Biafra, concerning, you know, important issues in Biafra. I am always interested in any issues concerning the Biafran people, the Ndigo, so to say. And every time I hear something or see something or discover something that I feel, concern the life and people of my Biafra descent, I don't waste time to bring it to the purview of the public, especially to my fellow Biafran lovers, uh, fellow freedom lovers, fellow agitators for, the sovereign, redeclared sovereign United States of Biafra. So, ladies and gentlemen, I'm happy once again, to interact with you people this morning. And this morning's audio, yeah, well, I could say it's in a lighter mood somehow. I could say, well, it could tickle your fancy somehow. I could say, well, you could just say that it's one of those things that frustrated, hungry people who are undergoing a lot of hard time, who are undergoing a lot of poverty and lack, who are undergoing a lot of starvation, who have not eaten, people who have not eaten good food. Of course, when they want to console themselves, they begin to crack jokes or say things that, may add a smile or force a smile on their lips. That is where I categorize the topic of today's audio. But equally, while I want to say it might be in the lighter mood, while I want to observe that it might be to tickle our fancies, I equally want to say that because of the personality involved, because of the character, the charisma, and the high profile of the personality involved, I think we should be very careful. We should be very careful when such jokes are, you know, fomented or orchestrated. We should be very careful when we talk about, especially, the missed, especially late deceased personalities of high standing, especially of Biafra origin. We have to be very careful. We have to watch our steps. And so, ladies and gentlemen, today's audio is about, none other, than the godfather of Biafra, late, then Chukwuemeka, uh, Odumegwu Ojukwu, the IKEMBA, the general of Biafra, the man who spearheaded the Biafra revolution, the man who fought, who led the, you know, Biafra civil war on behalf of the Ndigo. Ladies and gentlemen, when the name Dim Udumegwu Ojukwu is mentioned, when the name Ikemba of NNEWI is mentioned, of course, uh, 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 toes and fingers begin to tremble. Of course, you see that a lot of people don't breathe comfortably. Yes, anywhere you mention the name, yeah, Chukwuemeka Odumegwu Ojukwu, the late Ikemba uh, of Nnewi, you will find a lot of people, even presidents and ex-presidents, former presidents, shaking and trembling because that name resonates with a lot of aura. The name resonates with a lot of power. That name is a no name above above several other names, not above all names like Jehovah Jireh, our great Yahweh. Yeah, the Father of Jesus. No, but it's a name that is above several names. Yes, several names, especially amongst the leadership, current and uh, uh, previous in Nigeria. Yes, when you mention late Dim Chukwuemeka Ojukwu, people like General Gowon, the head of state of Nigeria, former head of state will begin to tremble when you mention the name of let Dame Ojukwu. A lot of people begin to tremble, including even the current president, the Jagaba. They know that that name is not called for nothing. They know that that name signifies a whole lot of things, and they know that that name is highly venerated among the Biafran people. So, ladies and gentlemen, this morning's audio is one that touches my heart. Yes, it grips my heart. There's a palpable grip on my heart because I feel sad that the personality of such innate, powerful, both locally and international reputation, a man whose character and personality has transgressed different generational gaps, different countries, a man who is among the who is who in everything Nigeria, including the leadership of Nigeria, should not be treated, with such levity. Ladies and gentlemen, in case you don't carry it, in case you don't feel what I'm feeling, I'm highly perturbed, deeply flabbergasted, disturbed, and I find no fun. It is not in any way ridiculous. It is not in any way a subject of clowning when you mention the name Chukwuemeka Odumegwu Chukwu in any balance whatsoever. So, ladies and gentlemen, this morning I want to talk about this sudden interest in the personality of our late godfather, the godfather of Biafra, late Tim Chukwuemeka Odumegwu, the general of the Biafran army, the field marshal of the Biafran army, if you permit me to say. People are talking about him. People are gossiping about him. He has become a subject of immense gossip. He has become a subject of unexpected postulations, unexpected conspiracy theories. He has become at the center. He has become a cynosure all of a sudden, and the center of the family, the life, the fatherhood, the generations and coming generations of the Jagaban, the man who said Emiloko, the man who said it is my turn to rule, the man who said oil subsidy is removed, Otilo. Ladies and gentlemen, I am very, very perturbed, highly flabbergasted. Indeed, I'm disturbed in no small measures by the fact that some people, lots of people, thousands of people have suddenly turned their beam lights, their flashlights, their clegg lights on none other than the Biafra warlord, the field marshal of Biafra, General Chukwuemeka Ojukwu, late General Field Marshal Chukwuemeka Ojukwu, who stood up following the incidents of 1966, 1967, 1968, 1969, 1970 Civil War, Biafra Civil War, who said, no, my people shall not be hounded like wolves. My people shall not be chased like the rabbit. My people, there can be no genocidal declaration against my people. Yes. And I sleep or I fled. No. I can't stand to watch while my people are dehumanized, while my people are deleted, killed, raped, while my people's properties are destroyed, while my people are shot at, bombed at, while my people suffer so much acrimony and hatred. I cannot stand. Enough is enough. This same Field Marshal, late Field Marshal Chukwuemeka Ojukwu, has become today a currency in the social media, has become a cynosure. But instead of talking about his past, instead of talking about his huge sacrifice, for this country and for especially the people of Biafra, instead of talking about a man who sacrificed, his high intellectual academic pursuits in elite universities in England, especially the Oxford University. A man who stood out amongst champions, a man whose diction, a man whose language, a man whose academic laurels speak volumes. A man who was more or less like royalty, born into a silver spoon. A man whose father single-handedly drove the Queen of England, late Queen of England, Queen Elizabeth II, drove her through the city of Lagos when she visited Nigeria in his limousine. A man whose father, even till death, is still one of the richest ever Nigerians that have bestrode and bestride this Nigerian continent, this African continent, this Nigerian geographical hemisphere. Ladies and gentlemen, when I hear people talk about the Ojukwu, when I hear people talk about the Biafra warlord, when I hear people talk about the Field Marshal of Biafra, the man who said, Gowon, no, on Aburi we stand. You cannot treat my people like goats. You cannot kill my people without remorse. You can chase them away from their fatherland. We, the people of the Southeast, we have put our quota in this country called Nigeria, following the amalgamation of 1914 by Lord Lugard and his acolytes. We have paid enough. The Southeast has paid enough. We have sacrificed. Our nationalists fought for independence of this country, all over this country. And we cannot tolerate the fact that suddenly the Igbo man, the Biafra man, has become an endangered species in this land called Nigeria. If you cannot guarantee my people freedom, if you cannot guarantee them security, if you cannot guarantee them a lease of life, then let my people go. Go on. Me and you signed an accord at Aburi, Ghana. It was clearly witnessed by the Ghanaian president, by well-meaning international and local observers. And we said, no, we will maintain the peace. We will give the Southeast a common ground. We will end all hostilities towards the Southeast. Of course, there will be no war. Of course, the Southeast will be rehabilitated back to their jobs, back to their positions, and those who have lost their positions in the military, the security forces, or in the civil service will be upgraded at par. I mean, those who suffered because of this unexpected, because of this unprovoked attack, because of the demonic attack on people from the Southeast, they will be promoted. They will be given their due. This was what was signed in Aburi, what is famously called the Aburi Accord. This was what the Field Marshal of Biafra, Tim Ojukwu, told Gowon. And they said, Gowon, if you renege on the signature you signed, if you renege on the agreement we read, then, unfortunately, to your tents, O Biafrans, that means Biafra would have no option rather than to seek for their own sovereign, independent, national, geographic environment. Yes, this was what Gowon, Field Marshal, the Biafran Field Marshal, late Dame Ojukwu, told Jara Gowon. When Gowon didn't budge, when Gowon didn't do the needful, of course, we can now see how all that were what precipitated. These were the things, the immediate and remote causes of the Biafran Civil War. If you know, you know. If you don't know, you don't know. Ladies and gentlemen, this great warrior, this great man who sacrificed so much for his people, his education, his royal background, but he identified with the poor, with the oppressed of Biafra land, with those who had no other option. He said, on Biafra, in Biafra, I will live and die. Ladies and gentlemen, you can imagine how upset I am. You can imagine the level of my pain. You can see to a very great extent that I am highly, highly distressed when this great man's name is mentioned in the social media with mundane issues. How can you compare a personality like let them Chukwemeka Odumogu with this Jagaban, this clueless president, this man who says it is my turn? How can you compare the field marshal of Biafra? Let them Chukwemeka Odumogu with BAT. It is not done. It is not possible. This is a man of astute intellectual prowess. A man, when he speaks it, when he says it, you can feel it. You can feel the life in his voice. The message is in his speech. Ladies and gentlemen, how can anybody come up? Were they drunk? Were they under the influence? Were they under the influence? I mean, what are these people taking? While all of a sudden, what is prominent in the social media, back to back now for the past 2 weeks, what they are talking everywhere, what we see everywhere is comparisons, photos of our field marshal of Biafra. Let them to his photo being compared with the pictures of Seyi Tinubu, the first son, the senior son, the heir apparent of the Tinubu dynasty. I mean, if you don't get it, you should get it by now. How can anybody in their wildest dream begin to imagine that Seyi Tinubu, the heir apparent of the Tinubu dynasty, this man, this young man who came up to say that nothing will stop my father, Bola Ahmed Tinubu, from staying 8 years in office, nothing will stop him from winning the 2027 elections, not even God, not even divine entities. How can anybody in their right mind begin to conjecture, begin to imagine, begin to, power play, picture play, begin to check, cross the T's and dot the I's, begin to imagine in their widest dream, begin to be mesmerized by their probably alcohol intake, probably other substance abuses, to begin to think that the field marshal of Biafra, the late Timodumogo Ojukwu, fathered, sired Seyi Tinubu. I mean, have you not seen it in the social media? Have you not heard it all over the mass media? That all of a sudden Nigerians have forgotten their hunger, they have forgotten their pains, they have forgotten the long queues at the filling stations, they have forgotten the hashtag bad governance, hardship government, they've forgotten that this clueless government has run this country aground, they've forgotten the illegal pronouncement, declaration of state of emergency in Port Harcourt. They have sort of forgotten about the incessant killings upon killings in Plateau State, in Benue State, in Enugu State, in Delta State, in River State, in Port Harcourt, of course, in Ebonyi State, in Imo State, in Anambra State. They've sort of forgotten where hundreds and hundreds of people have been killed, where thousands of people are massacred by the jihadist Fulani herdsmen, by Boko Haram, Lakarawa activists who dress themselves like herdsmen. Villages are being burnt, families are being burnt, people are being deleted from their environment, day in, day out, and everybody suddenly becomes mute. Everybody suddenly becomes dementia. They forget what is happening. What are they thinking now? All of a sudden, from nowhere, they start talking about the similarities. They compare and contrast the very significant closeness of the bald headlines, of the eyebrows, of the shape of the lips, of the shape of the ears, of the color of the manner of speaking, the gesticulations, and they begin to imagine, they begin to mesmerize themselves, and they begin to seduce themselves. And all of a sudden, they are saying, look, from all intents and purposes, look, jokes apart, look, I'll tell you as it is, there's a great similarity, more than 95% of resemblance, of look-alike, of similarities between Seyi Tinubu, the heir apparent of the Tinubu dynasty, and the late Dame Chukwuemeka Ojukwu, the IKEMBA NNEWI, the husband of the delectable Bianco Ojukwu, who between, her late husband and herself, sired about 6 children, doing well, profoundly successful. And now you're comparing, contrasting. I remember those days when you answer questions, they say compare and contrast. I think most times it's in biology, mostly in biology. They said compare and contrast the lizard and the wall gecko. Compare and contrast the cockroach and the butterfly. Compare and contrast the alligator and the crocodile. Compare and contrast Seyi Tinubu and Field Marshal. Let Field Marshal. Yes, I started this audio by saying we might find it lugubrious, we might find it ridiculous. Maybe the original intention was to create some fun. I mean, to isolate oneself from when you're in a lot of poverty, when you're in a lot of lack, so to speak. In psychology, it's called defense mechanism. When what you're looking for is not there, when you can't find food to eat, when food is not readily available, you can't meet up in what you're doing, you can't achieve what you're supposed to achieve, you begin to look for a defense mechanism, a reaction formation. You begin to create explanations, you begin to react in certain ways just to hide, like a subterfuge. Yes, a charade. You make believe to cover up those areas that are deficient. They call it defense mechanisms in psychology. Could that be what is making people suddenly take so much alcohol, take so much substances, sniff so much substances, and then come up, and without any preamble, begin to compare and contrast, begin to demand for a DNA to confirm the authentic paternity of Seyi Tinubu and IKEMBA, let IKEMBA Chukwuemeka Odumegu. The Field Marshal of Biafra. Well, ladies and gentlemen, I don't know how you're taking this, but of course, in this country now where, we find very few things that will make us happy, we find out that a whole lot of things are not going well. I mean, this is a country where the head of state, the vice president, they are missing in action. And the man who is supposed to have held sway, the Senate president, is embroiled in sexual harassment saga with the delectable, beautiful and savvy, very astute Senator Natasha Akpoti-Uduaghan. Yes, so Nigeria is a rudderless country. It's now on autopilot. It's on self-drive. And of course, when the elephants are fighting, it is the grass that suffers. The majority of the citizenry are living in lack, in penury. To eat now is a luxury. Where will you see 2 square meals? Nobody's talking of 3 square meals anymore. 2 square meals is now a mirage. If you see Gary, you drink. If you don't see Gary, well, you buy cabin biscuits, break it into bits, pour water on it, and of course, you have something to chew on. Of course, we all know that bread is not out of the reach of the common man. Not even the agege bread that you could wake up those days. Those days when I was growing up, you're waking up in the morning, you're hearing Agon women from Cotonou, Ijo axes, the Agon women. You see them carrying pots on their head, black pots, carrying nylons in their hands. And what are they hawking? You hear them shouting, Ewa going, Ewa going, Ewa going. They are selling, hawking beans, beans cooked so soft you could apply it as butter in your hot agege bread. That was what a lot of people ate those days. It was more or less like their own shawarma. It was their snack. It was their snack, a very rich snack indeed for people of those period. But now you can't find it. Who can afford bread agege? Agege bread now runs in comparison with other breads. I guess the cheapest agege bread you can find cannot be below 1,005. And then, of course, the beans. They are going beans did not beyond the reach of the common man. So I think under all this stress, all these difficulties, people have gotten so tired. Hunger and deprivation have set in. People no longer can sleep. They can no longer sleep. And so in their delirious mood, sleepless nights, in their lack of sleep mode, they begin to fathom, imagine, they dream all sort of things. And I think one of the things that are suddenly coming to their minds is the resemblance, the deep resemblance, the uncanny resemblance between Seyi Tinubu and our Biafran warlord, late Dame Chukwemeka Odumogu. Ladies and gentlemen, I don't know where you are. I don't know what mood you are. I don't know how you're feeling listening to this audio. But if it meets you as well, that is a is a thing to tease you, tickle you. I remember the song by uh, the music crew. What's his name? Alexito. Yes, the reggae crooner who said, "Tickle me, tickle me, tickle me, oh butterfly." He said, tickle me, tickle me, tickle me. So make my soul happy. So, I don't know, really, seriously, I don't know how. In fact, I'm tickled just hearing these things I'm saying because I can't imagine what has happened. Well, ladies and gentlemen, that's an audio for us. It's a point of contact. It's something to talk about, to think about. It's something that you must hear and listen to. Why we listen to it? Why we watch it? Why we read it? Please, please, and please, let us not take this seriously at all. Don't make it a distraction. Yes, if you don't want to listen to it, jump and pass. If you don't want to read it, jump and pass. Don't let anybody distract you. These are distraction mechanisms, defense mechanisms, all aimed at derailing the people of Biafra from facing their goal. All aimed, all attempts to orchestrate a deliberate, mesmerizing of Biafrans to live, to chase shadow and live gain, chase shadow and live gain. No, we shall not be so deceived. Enough is enough. My people of Biafra, let's just smile on this. Let's laugh on this. Yes, our late day, Chukwemeka Odimegu, is back to life. This time, as the progenitor, as the one who sires Seyi Tinubu, the heir apparent of the Tinubu dynasty. Ladies and gentlemen, God bless you all. I look forward, to doing more serious audios with you. I only brought this to your attention so that we can laugh it off. Let's laugh off the steam. Nigeria is in a state now where nobody is laughing. Nigeria is a condition where people are crying every day, dying, poverty, too much poverty in the land, too much hardship in the land. When late Ras Kimono sang the song, saying, "Give me a little sugar for me tea. We no want no take away." Everybody thought he was under the influence, but the man was saying the country was really, really in a terrible state, uncontrollable state. Ladies and gentlemen, ditto to this time. This is when the country has become a mess. When Idris Abdul Karim sang Nigeria Jaga Jaga, people thought he was crazy. Today he has come. He said, Seyi, tell your papa. Ladies and gentlemen, let's end it here. God bless you. Look forward to hearing from you next time. Bye bye.
Yeah, Biafra, Biafra. Yeah, Superstar Media. Tell me about Biafra. We going back to the motherland. Tell me about Biafra. I wanna know. Tell me about Biafra. We going back to the motherland. Tell me about Biafra, Biafra. I wanna know. We going back to the land. We going back to the motherland. Biafra, Biafra. Tell me about Biafra. We going back to the land. Tell me about Biafra. We going back to the motherland. Tell me about Biafra, Biafra. Tell me about Biafra. We going back to the land.